my name is PeeJ. Let me not waste your time. Here are 5 tips that I think you should know about when working in DaVinci Resolve. In Fusion, depending on the type of node that we are using, we can have some viewer controls that you can see here, like the little box, the little L arrow for the position, the little X for the pivot point, and little circle for the rotation. And we can actually use these by clicking on these, or whichever is red, the one that will respond to. And we can also switch between these by hitting tab, and so now we can control the size of the edge. We hit tab again, then we can control the rotation just by clicking that control. Tab again, it controls the pivot point. So wherever we go, it goes like that. And then if we do tab again one last time right here, and then it goes to the position control. We can also do this without having to click the center point, just by holding Alt and then drag our clip somewhere like this. And then you can see we can drag our image to wherever we want to go. This also works for all the other controls. If we just hit tab, we can zoom in like this and then zoom out. Tab again, we can do the rotation like this, and then lastly we can move the pivot point wherever. The only time this does not work is when you're keyframing. So if we keyframe here and we can move it, it just makes another viewer control just like this. There's a little point control for the little path that it makes, and then you'll have to keyframe somewhere else like this, and then you can move it like that. So that is how you use the viewer controls in Fusion. Next tip that I have needs you to have the free plugin, which is Reactor, which I have a video on installing this right here. Otherwise, if you go into Reactor and search for Resolve Essentials and install that, you're able to add a hotkey on your keyboard in order to add certain nodes that you want. For example, I've set it up where I hit T on my keyboard and I'll add the transform node. And if I hit A on my keyboard, I add a merge node, as well as if I hit E for an optical flow node and R for a time stretcher node. Once you have Resolve Essentials installed, in order to access the place where you can keybind these controls, you go up to Workspace, you need to go down to Scripts, and to Resolve Essentials, and then to the Fusion Hotkey Manager. Then in order to bind certain tools to buttons on your keyboard, you need to go to Views and then down to Flow, which is another word for the nodes page that is down here. Then you can hit New and then add a tool or an action that you want to happen when the button is pressed. And then whatever key that you want, then hit OK. I don't have that any there. And once you're done, you should be able to add nodes to your node tree really fast just by hitting a certain key on your keyboard. If you're working in 3D space and you have a good angle in your viewer and you want to use that as your camera, you can actually drag the 3D camera into the viewer and it'll create a camera at that exact same spot in your viewer. If you want to look at the perspective of the camera, you can actually right click the perspective button at the bottom left of the viewer right here, and then check the camera 3D button, and it'll go to the camera where you can actually control where you are looking in the camera, and you can control where your camera is placed. And this way you can also keyframe wherever you want just by moving the camera around in the viewer, just like this. Now you have your animation like this. If you're in the edit page and you want to go a certain amount of frames forward, you actually hit Shift plus, which is plus sign, and then type in whatever time you want. So let's go forward by like 14 frames, hit enter, and then it'll move your playhead 14 frames forward from wherever it is. You do the same thing by using the minus sign. So let's do -2, and then it brings us 2 frames back. And if you just hit equal sign, you can type in whatever time code you want to be at. So we want to be at, say, 1 second and 4 frames. We can do that, hit enter, and then we can see we skip to 1 second and 4 frames. And if you want to just skip around the timeline just by going in 1 second increments, you can just hold down shift and then hit the arrow key. It'll bring you 1 second forward, and also the same going backwards. So shift and then the backwards arrow key. You want to bring up the timeline tab panel that you usually see me have up here. You can go to this button over here, which is timeline view options, click it, and then you can click this button right here and it'll give you tabs. And you can also change the video track height. This is all the video tracks up here, and then you can also change the audio track heights just like this. And another cool thing that you can also do in the timeline is you can have multiple timelines open at the same time, but not like this, but in 2 different tabs. So if we go to the right side right here, click this add button, it'll stack another timeline underneath it that we can drag our timeline into. So here we have another timeline here. This is my tutorial. I can just drag it here and it'll pop up all in here. Then what's cool about this, if I have a clip that I want to take from this timeline to this timeline, all I have to do is drag it into here and it'll duplicate that clip, and I can have it in this timeline just like this. And if I want to get rid of this timeline, I can just hit X this right here, and then now we have our thing like that. If you're interested in learning about more workflow tips in the Fusion page, click this video right here. Otherwise, subscribe and have a good day.